Hi everyone. All right, this is Cooking in the Kitchen with me, Cooking in the Kitchen with Rosemary, and this is our experimental uh, first time ever with a new camera. I'm laughing because this is so fun. We're going to have fun. So what I decided to do today was a very cheap cut of meat, which is really flavorful, really tender, and it is a breast of lamb, which you can see lying nicely here. Okay, so we've got the breast of lamb, and usually I would use 3 pounds of this, but we're narrowing things down. So we've got onions, we've got garlic, we've got a little bit of water in there. I'll show you what to use that for in a minute. We've got water. You can use water or you can use lamb stock if you can get it, which is not easy to get. You might want to make your own. And we've got red wine. So we've got 2 cups of water, 1 cup of red wine, 1 onion, about 4 cloves of garlic. Then in this nice little pot here, we've got ginger and we've got turmeric. We've got, what else have we got? We've got paprika, we've got some salt, and I'm going to mix this to a paste. But first, before we do that, I'm going to make some marks in this meat. I'm not going to cut it all the way through. You need a very sharp knife for this, but you need to make sort of, so I'm slicing it sort of at an angle, and then turn this around. And then I'm going to make some sort of crisscrosses like this, nice and crisscrossy, just through the flesh of the meat. There we go. And what that does is, when we cut the meat like this, what it does is, when I'm going to make this rub, I'm going to make this marinade for the meat. And what it does is, it allows the flavor of all of this good stuff to get into the meat. So I'm going to add a very tiny little bit of water, and we've got some saffron in here as well. I don't think I mentioned that. And I'm going to mix it, and I want to get a sort of a nice paste, not too thick and not too thin. How about that? I mean, not too thick and not too thin, but I want it to, that's a slightly more liquid. There we go. Adding the water a tiny bit at a time, because this mushes down very quickly and very easily. Okay, so that's mushed. There we are. Now I'm going to take some olive oil, one of my favorite ingredients in the kitchen, and behind me I have a nice pan with a tight lid to it. So I'm going to put roughly, did you see that? Roughly a tablespoon of olive oil into the pan, and I'm heating it up. I can't remember if I put the oven on. Yes, I did. So I'm going to heat that up, and as that's heating up, I'm now going to turn the lamb. There's a top side and a bottom side, and there are ribs in this lamb, so there are bones in this. Now, if you want to do a breast of lamb with no bones in it, you can either learn to take the bones out yourself, or better still, go to the butcher and ask for a breast of lamb and have them take the bones out. However, when they take the bones out for you, if you can, make sure that you take the bones with you as well, because they make the greatest stock. You can use a brush, or you can do what I do, which is use the fingers. So I'm going to scoop in here, and you can see it's a bit of a sloppy mess, but it looks so good. And I'm going to lather this all over, first of all on the underside, which I also scored earlier on. And then, now normally I would do 2 pieces like this, and sort of, so 2 pieces equals about 3 pounds. I'm going to lather it on as much as I can, and then we would put it to one side and leave it for maybe, I don't know, an hour. You might want to put in the fridge for an hour. There we are. But because we're on camera, we're not going to do that today. So I'm going to slather that on and rub it well in. Okay, so there's about 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika. There's probably 1.5 teaspoons of salt, some ground ginger, 1 teaspoon of ground ginger, a good solid pinch of saffron, and I use saffron threads, but you can get ground saffron. I'm now going to wipe my hands. And it just makes sort of more like sort of a type of Indian flavor, but I'm not good on Indian cooking, so don't trust me on that entirely. I'm going to take it over to the stove, and my oil is heated. I can smell that it's ready, and I'm going to put this in. I'm going to braise it. So I'm going to put this in the oven, in the pan. Yes, the oil is slightly, very, very slightly smoking. I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit, and you're going to hear the sizzle any minute now. There we go. And so I don't know if you can see that on camera, but there it is. We're going to cook it in the oil for maybe 5 minutes on either side, and make it nice and brown and get a good color on it. So that's happening. And also on my board, you can see there's more of this good stuff, so I'm going to scrape that in again. Okay, smells delicious already. I'm going to get a paper towel and clean myself up just a little bit. There we go. So let me do this once again for you. So we've got the seasoning is ginger, ground ginger, paprika, turmeric, and saffron, and some salt. 1 onion, just chopped small. 3 cloves of garlic. That's because I like garlic, so you might want to put more or less as you please. 8 ounces of red wine, and you can use cooking wine for this, it's fine. And 2 cups of water, and the lamb. I mean, how simple and easy is that? Let's turn that over. It's already getting a really good color on it. So we'll just leave that for a few more minutes. And okay, now while that's cooking, you want to hear it sizzle. You don't want to burn the oil, but you want to hear it sizzling because you want to get that nice, beautiful color on the meat. And so while we're just waiting for that just for a minute, I actually like to tell people, you know, when you're in the kitchen, it's always good to have a friend. And I have a friend in the kitchen with me. I have my spirit guide, Grey Eagle, who helps me, who guides me. It's good that I actually will eat this, because when I can eat something, it means I can taste it. And so I'm happy to taste and to rely on my own sense of taste. But if I'm cooking pork, for instance, and I don't eat pork at all, except bacon, which I can't resist. But when you're cooking something that you don't want to try or you don't actually eat, then it's always good to have someone in the spirit world who is with you. Now, that someone in the spirit world might be your grandmother, it might be your aunt or your uncle or your father or your mother, whoever it is in your family who love to cook. Just invite them into the kitchen with you. Have a friend in the kitchen with you. I'm turning this again. We're just going to give it a couple more minutes. Turn the stove up a little bit to get it nicely browned. Remember, we're not cooking the meat. We're simply giving the meat a really nice color on it, and just also getting those spices all melded in, and it smells good in this kitchen right now. All right, so let me wash out the, this is not, I have to tell you, this is not an industrial kitchen. This is just my kitchen that we're in. So we have to wash and wipe and clean up as we go along. Okay, so now I'm going to take the meat out. And I have a nice pan here to put it in. Let's have a look at this. Now, just, I don't know if you can see that, but the colour on that is really gorgeous. It's brown nicely on the top. And again, it smells delish. So, okay, we're going to leave that there for a second. Using the same pan, and I'm going to show you this pan because it looks like an awfully dirty pan. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that pan there? It's smoky and it's dirty and it's not nice. We're not going to add any more oil because I don't know if you can see the fat from the lamb has already started to render down. So we have plenty of fat in there. We don't want to add any more oil or fat to this. Okay. If you don't want to use oil, you can use ghee, which is also good, makes a really nice flavor, or you can mix the two. You can have a little ghee and a little oil, but I'm just using oil for now. In go the onions. Okay. We just want the onions to soften up a little bit, not too much, just a little bit. I want them to brown. And I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that from there? It's sort of, let me move it a little bit close to the camera. The onions are mixed up with all the rest of the juices in there. So I'm adding that. And I'm also going to add now the garlic. Now I have a thing about adding garlic and onion together, and everybody has their own ideas. But if you add garlic and onion together, this is only my opinion. And remember, I'm not a professional chef, but if you add them together without cooking the onions slightly first, you're going to find that they get really sticky together. So I always like to cook the onions slightly first and then add the garlic in, and there we have that great mixture. Again, we are just bringing a little color. I'm going to cook that up for maybe 30 more seconds. In it goes. It's always good to have the stove on when you're doing this, just so you know, because I just forgot. And then once that's cooked up nicely, I'm going to add the pork. After I've added the pork, I'm going to add the wine. Maybe I'll add the wine first because maybe I'm going to cook it up just a little bit to burn off, cook out some of the alcohol that's in the wine. You might not want to do that, but I'm going to do that. So I don't know if you can hear the onions are cooking, and in goes the wine. Turn the stove up high. Give it a good stir with the spoon. Now, we haven't yet figured out how to zoom this camera, so you know. So we thought we'd try it anyway and just have some fun and do this and have fun with it. And so that's the wine. As soon as the wine comes up to the boil, I don't know if I can show you. I don't know, Carolyn, can you see this at all? It's sort of nicely cooking. Is there any way? You can't see it. I'm just going to bring it over to you then again. And you can see that. Can you see that there? Good. And I've got Carolyn working the camera, and she's giving me all sorts of hand signals. Who knows what she's really saying to me? And then, you know, while we're at it, and while I'm over here, so you can see, I'm going to put the lamb right back in. In it goes. Now, that looks good already, right? That just looks so good. And this is a braised lamb. And braising means adding liquid. So I'm going to add little of this water as well. In fact, I'll add it all. Okay, so that's what you get. I'm going to bring it up to the boil on the stove, and then I'm going to put a nice tight lid on it, and this goes in the oven, 275 degrees, for anywhere between 2.5 to 3 hours. So after about 2 hours or 2.5 hours, you might want to sort of take it out and test it, put your fork in it, and the meat should be, when you put your fork into this lamb, it should literally almost fall off the bone. It should be so soft, also a bit fatty. A lot of this liquid is going to reduce down, and I've always wanted to say this because I see this on cooking shows all the time. I have one which I prepared earlier. Do I sound like a professional here? I have one which I prepared earlier, which I'm going to bring out and show you what we're actually going to do with it now. So I'm going to set this aside. We're going to put this in the oven later. But I wanted to do this just to show you how simple, how easy, and how delicious this actually is. Let me get a cloth for this. You can tell I'm not a professional because, first of all, I don't have everybody running around looking for cloths and things for me. And second of all, I don't know what I'm doing half the time. Right, so let's put that over there, out of the way of the camera. And I'm going to bring out the lamb I cooked earlier. Now, normally, you would see twice as much meat in there than there is. But what I did was I split it in half so that I could cook half to show you and the other half, you know, whatever. Anyway, I'm going to really hate this when I look back at it. And I'm going to laugh at myself a lot. But let's do that. Let's take this out of the oven. So this is the braised lamb, which has been cooking now for about 3 hours. So I always like to put this on a baking tray with a lid, just in case it boils over. Now I'm going to turn the oven up. It was on 275. I'm now going to turn it up to 450 degrees. 450 is very high. So let's see. Let's see how we do this. Okay. $450, and let's turn it on. Right. Let's get another of these good chopping blocks out. And this is very hot. I'm going to have to be very careful with it. And don't know if you can see the steam coming out there. Well, the smell is fabulous. There we go. Okay. Now, when you look at this, I'm just going to show you before I take the lamb out. The lamb has reduced in size. Okay, so naturally. It's been braising for a long time. And this is the juice that's left. So it's reduced to probably less than half the liquid. So that's why you need it. Now, this is a very fatty meat. That's why it's cheap. Years ago in England, you could buy 3 pounds of this for probably less than $2. I paid $7 for these 2 pieces. It's still a cheap cut, but it's very fatty. So I'm going to lift it out, and if I only had some foil. There we go. I'm going to put some foil on this pan that we just used. I'm just going to lay it on there, okay, like this. Then I'm hoping that this thing lifts out without falling apart. I mean, what you hope and what you get are sometimes two different things. So I'm going to take it out of the liquid. Okay, and here we go. So I can just lift it out and just lay it all by itself on the tray. Now the liquid, I don't know if you can see this, because you remember you've got the onions and you've got the garlic, and you can make this as a gravy just by itself, or you can thicken it up a little bit with a little bit of cornstarch and put it on the top of the oven, put a little bit of cornstarch on it and cook it through, and it'll thicken up like a nice thick gravy. I don't know if you can see that, but this, I mean, look at all the good stuff that's in there. It's really, really delish. Okay, so that's that. Now, you can do something else. You can cut this in half, or you can just leave it whole. We're actually going to leave it whole. But I don't know if you can see on camera, but this is very fatty. There's a big layer of fat right in there. And you probably, I don't know if that's in the way at all. Let's have a look at this. You can see it's got bones in it. So it's like, this piece of lamb is from this part where the rib is up here. It's called the breast of the lamb, but it's got all the rib bones in it. And I like my rib bones left in. I know a lot of people like them taken out, and if you take them out, you can actually roll this piece of meat and stuff it, and that's delicious as well. But I like to gnaw on a bone. I'm a terrible person. I mean, I know some of you don't eat meat, so, but I like to do that. Now, all the time I'm cooking, I'm also talking to my spirit guide, Grey Eagle. All the time I'm saying to him, so what do you think then to this? First of all, I'm asking, is there enough salt in here? And he's actually saying yes to me. No, I'm sorry, wait a minute. He says it needs a touch more. And we're going to have a little tester, Carolyn. The poor girl. I'm going to test it myself. But ordinarily, if my spirit guide says to me, you've got enough salt, I would say, fine then, that works for me. So I'm going to see what Carolyn thinks to this. Blow it, because it's very, very hot. She's not coming into the camera, you notice. She's ignoring, she's reaching over the counter. And I'm going to have a little taste. Tastes good to me. I think Grey Eagle's right. I think we need a little bit more salt. What do you think?
More salt.
Be honest, a little bit more salt.
Seriously, more salt.
So when we're sort of making the gravy here, I'm going to put a little bit more salt in that. What I also did when you weren't around, and when I was cooking this is what I did. I'm going to show you. Okay. Because there is so much fat on this piece of meat, when you're cooking it, you're rendering it down, it's going all into the gravy. And what I did was I cooked this last night, and I left it overnight in this pan in the refrigerator. When I took it out this morning, the fat rose to the top. And you can see there's all of that fat. And that's all of the fat that comes out of this piece of meat. That's a lot of fat. And I don't want all of that in my gravy. And I don't want all of that left on here. And so I literally let it, now you can let it cool down and spoon it off of the top, but it's easier if you cook it overnight and then literally peel it off with a knife like this, like I did. This I'm going to use for cachorro. I'm going to add it to some of his dishes that I make for him, a little at a time, not too much, because this, although it's fat, it is so flavorful, so great. And he's already salivating, let me tell you, sitting in the corner, but he's salivating. So I'm going to put that back in the fridge. Okay, so we're waiting for the oven, and as soon as it hits the right temperature, we're going to put it in at 450 degrees at the top of the oven. Now we put this, when we're braising it, in the middle of the oven on low to braise and make this meat nice and tender. But we're going to put this in the oven on a high heat to render off that fat some more and to get a crust on it, so that when you cut it, it's going to be nice and crusty and crispy. The fat's going to crisp up. So we'll leave this in the oven for what? Between 15 and 20 minutes until it's nice and crispy and well done. Served on a bed of jasmine rice is absolutely perfect. Pour some of this sauce over the top. It's even more delicious. Or you can just put it on a plate, let it cool a bit, and then just eat it right off the bone. So either way, it's really good. So we're going to have to wait for this to cook a little bit. So while we're waiting for this to cook, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the questions that we've had from people who email us. We can put this over here out of the way. And we're going to... and we're going to talk about all of the things that we're planning on doing in the future. So I'm a spiritual medium and a healer, and I have been doing this for so many years, I've almost lost count. This year is the 20th anniversary of The Eagle and the Rose, which was my first book published by Warner Books. And 20 years has gone by. So we did an audio. It's an abridged version of The Eagle and the Rose, and it's an audio, and we're loving doing this. And as it's the 20th year, wow, I'm so old now, but as it's the 20th year, we thought we'd have a little celebration by doing some of the kitchen stuff. Because I am, as many of you know, I am devising a cookbook. The cookbook started out not in the usual way. I've been cooking for so many years and experimenting in the kitchen for so many years. And my daughter would call me and say, "Mom, can you remember that dish we made and so when I was 10 years old?" And I'll have to rack my brains to think what it was. And, or can you remember this? Or how do I make this? And I started writing down some of the stuff that I had been cooking over the years. And, you know, when you make stuff up as you go along, when you do experiments and you make a recipe your own and you add this, that, and the other, it's not always easy to remember it. So I've had to create some of the stuff as we've gone along. And this is one of those things that I've had to recreate. But then friends found out, wait a minute, you're giving Samantha the recipes. Well, can I have the recipe for the trifle? Well, can I have the recipe for the tiramisu? Can I have the recipe for this and this? And so that's how the cookbook got born. So we're doing the cookbook. We're having a lot of fun with it. And poor Carolyn, who is, as I say, working the camera, poor Carolyn is having to do all of the computer work and the rotten work. Although sometimes she gets to be in the kitchen with me and helps me to make good food, which I then send her home with, or she helps me to eat. I think the oven is ready, almost. I'm going to put it in anyway, whether it is or not. Okay, it's above 400, so I think we'll get that. So I'm going to leave it for about 15 minutes and see just exactly what happens to it. Right. So now we're going to think about, but not make today, but probably tomorrow, we're going to think about shortbread. And I'm going to make a really delicious Parmesan shortbread. It's my own little creation. And it's one of those things that when you make it, you can't stop eating it. You just can't. It's just, you want more, and then you want more, and then you want more. And so we're going to be making some Parmesan shortbread. We're going to be making some almond shortbread, again, my own little creation. My daughter will insist when she comes to visit me that I do not make the almond shortbread because she cannot resist them. So she goes home a good 5 pounds heavier than when she got here. I make them for her anyway because they're fun to make. But I also, again, we're going to do shortbread again. So the next video is going to be a shortbread video. And the next video is a simple Scottish shortbread. It's a very simple, very easy. You'll be amazed when you watch how I make it. You'll be amazed at how easy it is and how delicious it is. But these plain shortbreads, butter, flour, a little bit of rice flour, all of the good stuff, you're going to be amazed, first of all, at how delicious it is, how quick and easy it is. But then we're going to put some toppings on it, because my grandson Reese, who is now 3 years old, does not like almond shortbread, and he does not like Parmesan shortbread, but he absolutely loves the sugar shortbreads that I make him with the toppings. So I'm going to make him some of that tomorrow. So we're going to be doing 3 different shortbreads, and they're going to be delicious. Now, Carolyn, do we have any questions from people about maybe working in the kitchen? Do we have any questions from people as to how we are able to connect with people in the spirit world, especially in the kitchen, because this is, after all, the kitchen show? And so what do we have? So Carolyn's coming up with a question. So you're going to hear Carolyn's voice. Say hello, Carolyn, to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
All right. What, darling, is the question? While we're waiting for this delicious lamb to cook, what's the question?
We had a lady the other day wanting to know actually if ghosts can still smell, spirits can still smell.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, how interesting. Ooh. Well, I suppose then we have to go a little bit further with the question, don't we? Can they still taste? Can they smell? We know that they can hear us. So, you know, hearing is one of the 5 senses. We know that they can touch us, another of the 5 senses. Let me see, what are the others? Taste and smell. And there's another one, a 5th one. I can't think what it is. Anyway, the answer to the question is yes, they can. And I'm not sure if they can taste, but they do have those in the spirit world. And I hate to call them spirits, because they are people just like you and I who have simply gone to that next place. Do they have memories? Do they have memories of what things taste like? Yes, they do. I don't know if they can taste. I have to ask Greg, or can you actually? He says yes. So you see, this is what happens when you've got someone in the kitchen with you, when you've got a friend in the kitchen with you from the other side. You ask a question. If you listen carefully, you'll hear the answer. The trick about asking questions, especially in the kitchen, but when you, that's the oven, time it's ready. But especially when you're talking to people, and especially in the kitchen, the trick is when you ask them a question, don't go on and on with the question. You need to ask a question that has a definite yes or a definite no answer. If you give them choices, if you say something like, which do you like best, the lemon shortbread or the whichever shortbread, you're confusing them. So you would say that, I wouldn't, but if you're a beginner or if you want to learn how to do this, you would say, is the Parmesan shortbread your favorite? And you will get a yes or a no. Now that helps you. That it's easier for you to absorb a single 1-word answer. So when you're talking to the spirit world, whether it's in the kitchen, whether it's in the bath, wherever it is that you're talking to the spirit world, try to limit your questions and to make sure that you're getting 1-word answers, a yes or a no. It just makes it simpler, and it makes it easier for you to understand what it is they're trying to tell you. So yes, the spirit world does smell. And the most important thing is, when we're connecting with the spirit world, we need to get our 5 senses working, our sense of smell, sight, taste, touch, and hearing. We need to get all of those to a point where you're really in tune, where you heighten your level of sensitivity to the point where you can feel them, sense them. You might feel them touching you. But one of the most common things that people experience, and as you're listening to this, some of you will say, yeah, that happened to me. One of the most common things is that people who we have loved, who have gone on into the spirit world, they usually have their own smell. Now, my father used to use Brill cream. It's an old hair treatment. They used to slap it on their hair, and it's a bit like grease, and comb it in. But Brill cream had a very, very distinctive smell. Sometimes it's somebody's tobacco. Sometimes it's somebody's perfume. But very often when someone in the spirit world is visiting you, if you're paying attention, you might get that smell drifting under your nose just a little bit. I remember waking up one night in the middle of the night, and as I rolled over, I'm a terrible sleeper, and as I rolled over to the other side of the bed, as I turned my head, I got the strongest smell of Brill cream. And my thought was, oh, Dad's here. And he was. So when you smell that particular smell, and everybody has one actually, you'll absolutely know and trust it when you smell that smell. Trust it that they are with you, they are around you, and they really, really are trying to connect with you. Just to say, I'm here. Just to simply say, I'm here, I'm with you, I'm by your side. And guess what? I'm still a part of your life, that's very important. They're still a part of our lives. And as I'm trying to show you today, even in the kitchen, even in mundane things, Gregor has just put his hand on my shoulder. So I'm interested to see now, is he saying to me, even though the meat has only been in for 10 minutes, is he saying to me that it's cooked enough for me to show you? Shall we have a look and see? To see if he's right or if he isn't right. Let's just have a look and test this out. So, and again, Gregor and I have a very special relationship that we've built over the years, and a way of communicating that we've built up over the years. So if he touches me on the shoulder, or if he is trying to tell me something, or he wants my attention, of course I'm going to listen. If you, when you're cooking in the kitchen, if you invite your grandmother or your mother or whoever it is you invite into the kitchen with you, don't invite everybody. You'll get confused. Maybe just one person, possibly two, but try one person at a time until you get used to the idea. When you feel them or sense them, or if you just feel that they're trying to say something to you, it could be as simple as a tap on the shoulder means your shortbreads are burning, you better get them out of the oven. It could simply mean that lamb is cooked. So let's have a look and see if it is. Oh, and look at that. Wow. Okay, now, I don't know if you can see that. It's definitely smoking in my kitchen a little bit. So that's it. And the lamb has formed a delicious crust. And you can hear it crispy, right? It's formed a delicious crust on the top. So that's been in for probably 10 minutes. And we now need to leave it to cool down. I'm going to cut the end off here. I'm going to share a little bit of this with Carolyn. I don't usually share lamb with anybody because I love lamb, but I'm going to share it with you, Carolyn. Would you like to taste a little bit? Oh, a little teeny bit?
Yes,
okay,
please.
Let me get some plate. I'm going to turn the oven off because I'm choking on the smoke. Okay, there we go. And I don't know if do you like lamb fat?
I actually don't really care for lamb, but I'm more than willing to try this. It smells delicious.
You don't care for lamb? You know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to get that delicious sauce. which is still over here, and a spoon and a fork. I doubt very much if we'll need a knife. I'm going to, as you don't like it, I'm not going to give you very much at all. So that crusty bit's mine.
It does smell delicious, though. Mm.
And I don't know if you can see this, but it's just literally, there's the bone. And can you see that? And it's just, if you barely need to touch it. It's just falling off the bone. Would you like a little sauce with this,
Yes,
my
please.
dear?
Yes.
And I'm going to put that. Now you have to be honest.
I will.
Okay. So you see how mean I am. The bone it's just fallen off the bone. I'm going to steal that bit. Oh gosh, for myself it's good. And I'm licking my fingers because I can't find the paper towel. Okay. Okay. And maybe I'll give you a little bit more sauce there. Give you a little bit of the onions there inside. And would you like to come around here? Come on. And this is Karen. We have to watch her eat, don't we? Okay, there you are.
All right,
Try
thank
that.
you. It's been smelling delicious.
Okay. This could be difficult. She doesn't like lamb. Who knew? Who knew that she didn't like lamb? Oh, she's going back for a second bite.
It's delicious.
Maybe she likes lamb after all. Like
It was
it?
really good.
You don't like lamb? Just to remind you.
Wow.
Would you like a spoon?
It's delicious.
Would you like a spoon and spoon it? There you go.
Perfect.
You see, I always try to share.
Thank you.
I'm a bit mean. You can see the portions, can't you? Anyway.
All those flavors are wonderful.
Now, this is, as I've said, a very cheap cut of meat. I mean, this would feed, I'm going to say, with rice, three women and maybe one man. I don't know. What do you think? With rice and the gravy. Another thing you can do with this, if you like to do this, you can actually make this into more of a stew by putting in, before you put in the oven, by putting in with the lamb, you could put in some carrots and some parsnips and even some small whole baked potatoes, which are going to cook up with that. And then you'd have a complete meal. It's a bit like a casserole or a good stew. But this is the way we've done it today. Feel free to experiment. Bring your friends into the kitchen. Bring your grandmother or your mother or your father, or whoever it is, was that great cook. Bring them in. Listen to them. And if you feel that someone is saying to you, more garlic, or someone's saying to you, put some sliced potatoes in there, do it. Experiment. Don't be afraid. That way, not only are you bringing your family into the kitchen with you, you're having a friend in the kitchen with you, you're also learning to pay attention, and you're learning to listen, and you're learning to connect with your loved ones in the spirit world. Not quite in the same way that I do, but it's fun. I really hope, and we're going to show you this delicious lamb again, because this is the star. Oh, you may going back for more. This is the star of it. This is the lamb, and there are two of them, remember. So, so you can do this with the 2 pieces, 3 pounds cut of lamb breast. So this is braised lamb with an oriental sort of flavor to it, a spice flavor to it, and maybe a Moroccan or a Middle Eastern, who knows what, but that sort of Middle Eastern flavor with it. Thank you for joining us in the kitchen. I hope I'm not rabbited too much. Please join us again, and join us on our Hangouts, join us on YouTube. And if you need any tips, or if you need any questions, or you want any questions of any kind connected to the spirit world or connected to whatever it is I've cooked, we have Rosemary at rosemaryaltea.com, which is the email, and we have www.rosemaryaltea.com, which is the website. You can go up there and see the books and all the good stuff we have up there. Find me on Facebook, find me on Twitter, and I think that's it. I am now going to have my dinner, and guess what I'm going to be eating? You've got it. Delicious braised lamb with spices. Thanks a lot.